was in the warm summer of 1911 when an English spiritualist, Lady Garnett, and her friend Eva Mountstephan arrived at the luxurious India Savoy Hotel in Mussoorie. They spent most of their time engaged in paranormal activities, crystal gazing and all sorts of then fashionable spiritual seances. Savoy was a perfect place for such a vacation. The neo-Gothic styled hotel opened its doors in 1902. It was a true oasis of lavish and trouble-free leisure pastime. Back in the early 20th century, it hosted famous politicians, diplomats, and artists of all kinds who were attracted to the place by its opulence. Frances Garnett Orme was a 49-year-old spinster who became one of those personages whose name made fame to the Indian Savoy Hotel. No, she didn't become famous for her uncanny visionary insights of a spiritual leader. She was simply found dead in her own room, locked inside, several days after her arrival.
Mother! Mother! Open the door!
Everyone was shocked when the medical examination produced strong evidence that lady was poisoned by strychnine. What a scandal! What an unheard hit to the reputation of such an honorable place! Her female companion, Eva Mountstephan, was immediately brought up on charges of a murder, but later acquitted due to the lack of evidence. Most shocking, the physician who performed the autopsy died from strychnine poisoning several months after Mountstephan's trial. The case eventually became a sensation. It did have it all: an exotic beauty of a foreign land, flamboyant decor and rich Edwardian furnishings of the hotel. They matched perfectly well with the wealth and power of its visitors. It looked like a perfect setting for an ideal scene of a masterfully planned and executed crime with merciless poison. No wonder these details made their way into Agatha Christie's first published novel, The Mysterious Affair at Styles.
Me? It's nothing to do with me.
Oh, but it is everything to do with you, mademoiselle.
Well, this was the common trail for Christie's inspiration to write her next detective stories. Something happened in real life, then made it to the headlines, got a bit forgotten, and then it could be taken to the writer's lab, some details added, some omitted, and voila, you have a perfectly convincing yet outrageously shocking murder mystery that is waiting for its readers on the shelves of the bookstores.
Can you do it?
Yet there were the reverse case scenarios that sort of stepped out from the book pages and altered the courses of real people's lives. This way, Agatha Christie did not only write murders, but her meticulous descriptions of fictional crimes helped prevent the ones plotted for reality.
The clever devils.
The following stories happened in the 1970s after the publication of The Pale Horse, a detective novel by Christie where there is no Poirot or Miss Marple, yet the case is solved by the stunning fictional writer Ariadne Oliver, who to a large extent was Christie's own prototype. You may learn more about her in this video. Check it out afterward. In her Pale Horse novel, Christie elaborated on a deathly potion other than the popular strychnine. By the way, there were several TV adaptations. All of them omitted the character of Oliver. One even added Miss Marple, and the recent series is a complete rewrite that is only loosely based on the original novel. Yet in no cases the original poisoning agent is the star of the plot. Thallium sulfate is nearly a perfect poison, a colorless, tasteless salt that you can dissolve in water and give to someone you wish to hurt or kill. It takes about a week to start working, and when it does, it produces symptoms that are easily confused with a wide variety of diseases, such, for example, as epilepsy, encephalitis, or even flu.
She was all right Monday week. She was all right when the gas man come on the Tuesday. She was all right on wash day. Then, that's right, she come down with the flu.
In the Pale Horse, the effects of thallium were first falsely attributed to black magic curses. Christie describes the symptoms perfectly. It affects the nerves, causes hair to fall out. There are flu-like symptoms, numbness, blackouts, slurred speech, all of which you'd likely attribute to other causes.
Thallium poisoning looks like nothing more than a natural death. You see the beauty of this scheme, Mr. Venables?
Agatha knew what she was talking about. When a young girl, she worked at the dispensary unit at a hospital, treating the wounded soldiers coming back home from the battlefields of the First World War. There she learned how to make drugs and prepare some complicated medical potions, mixing often dangerous substances to achieve the desired healing effect. Again, you may learn more about it in this video here. Back then, thallium was readily available and was even part of a pre-treatment for ringworm of the scalp. It didn't kill the ringworm, but it caused the patient's hair to drop out so that the condition could be more easily treated. Women could even buy it over the counter in the 1930s as a cream for removing the unwanted hair. Thallium is not a rare element. It is 10 times as abundant as silver. It is spread widely in the environment like spring waters, and trace amounts find their way into crops such as grapes, sugar beet, or tobacco. Moreover, each day we eat 2 micrograms of it as a part of our diet. A fatal dose for adult is slightly less than a single gram, a quarter of a teaspoon. Imagine they used to prescribe half of it to treat ringworm. So to say, Agatha Christie wasn't the one who opened the thallium Pandora box, yet she was the one who highlighted its short-paced poisonous effect, which once used in their evil schemes, while others were armed to give it a proper battle. There was an accident that happened in 1971 in Bovingdon, Hertfordshire in England, where they manufactured infrared lenses using thallium. A lab worker, Graham Young, intentionally put some thallium sulfate into the tea and coffee of 70 workmates. He was also a former killer in his shady past, but nobody paid due attention to that fact when hiring him. No one noticed the poison in the tea. Of course, it has no taste, as you remember. And as a result, several workers got seriously ill, and 2 of them died of mysterious illness, as everyone thought them. Luckily, a doctor who was working with Scotland Yard remembered reading Christie's novel and recognized the symptoms of thallium poisoning. This aha moment saved the lives of the rest of the workers by defining the right diagnosis and mitigating the symptoms with the proper antidote.
The arrogance of a murderer who's escaped justice for so long he thinks no one will ever catch him.
The insane teacup poisoner Graham Young was arrested, tried, and found guilty of the murder of his colleagues. The court also proved a series of previous cases of strange deaths surrounding the guy since his youth. Well, thallium poisoning was apparently a strange hobby of his. The name of Christie and her detailed descriptions of thallium effects were brought up at trial, though, as opposed to the doctor, Young denied having read the novel. Nevertheless, some folks decided to blame Agatha Christie for talking too much about these dangerous substances which could be so easily obtained by anyone.
Too young to hang, he was detained at His Majesty's pleasure until he was deemed cured and ready for release. But he was not cured, for there was nothing wrong with him in the first place, beyond a greed for money and a propensity for wickedness. And for that, I'm afraid, there is no cure.
Another popular insinuation against the writer involves an international aspect. It turned out that thallium became a weapon of choice to kill political opponents and at the same time mask their death for some natural causes. Kinda Novichok of good old days. Would you blame Christie for that? If so, then we should address all court sentences of every murder to the detective writers of all epochs and ban the genre completely for God's sake. But if the murderers could have used Christie's narration as an idea for a perfect crime, it means that victims or witnesses might use her descriptions to prevent the deathly circumstances. In 1975, Agatha Christie received a letter from a woman from South America. The thankful lady wasn't just a fan of the novelist's talent, but had something really important to tell the surprised writer. The woman said that she noticed strange things happening to a friend of her. She started to feel bad for no apparent reason. Her hair was thinning, her heart was jumping off the chest, and her mind was blacked out every now and then. That lady was a good friend and, most importantly, an attentive person with an excellent memory. She remembered reading about such health deteriorating effects in The Pale Horse. She made this daring assumption that those might have been the symptoms of thallium poisoning.
You really believe she spouts some mumbo-jumbo and as a result somebody dies?
Oh no, Mr. Venables. Cause of death is much simpler than that. Thallium poisoning.
What did you say?
Poisoning by thallium salts.
An unbelievable idea turned perfectly valid, and her friend's life was saved. She was apparently being slowly murdered by her husband. Another miraculous salvation happened in 1977 when Christie has already passed away. A desperately ill 1-year-old girl was flown from Qatar to London for medical treatment for a mystery illness. Pediatricians could find nothing to account for her condition, and with her heart beating 200 times per minute, her blood pressure high and her irregular breathing, there seemed no hope. A nurse from Hammersmith Hospital, Marcia Maitland, overheard doctors talking about her symptoms, which included hair loss. She was reading The Pale Horse at the time and correctly suggested thallium poisoning. Indeed, the toddler had eaten a thallium-based pest killer from under the sink. The child was treated just in time and made a full recovery.
The trick with magic is always to show the audience exactly what it is they expect to see. Now you see it. Now you don't.
You are an interfering old witch.
Unlike these stories with a happy, lucky ending, the case of Lady Garnett from the Indian Savoy Hotel has not been resolved ever since. Back then, it caused such a stir that people even stopped visiting the place for the next few months. Even now, over a century after the unfolding events, rumor has it that the ghost of Miss Garnett Orme could be seen in the lobby or dark corridors at night. Guests bragged that they heard some unprovoked sounds, mysteriously opening doors, and all that spooky stuff that comes to mind when we think of a typical ghost bedtime story. Yet, who knows, perhaps the lady is still roaming about the hotel, trying to find her killer. And have you ever seen ghosts yourself? Have you ever used some knowledge that you've read in a fictional book in your daily routine? Perhaps something has even saved your life. It would be curious to read about it in the comments. And see you in the next video. Bye!
What a wonderful girl. I shall never understand women.
Console yourself, mon ami. Perhaps one day, when this terrible war is ended, we shall work again together, huh? And Poirot will explain all to you.